On today's show, Noah Clowney and Danny Wolf nearly carry the Nets to their third straight win, but Brooklyn collapses in the fourth quarter against the Jazz. But I'll outline why this loss should leave Nets fans encouraged moving forward right now.
You are Locked On Nets, your daily Brooklyn Nets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to Locked On Nets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the number one sports podcast network. It's your team, the Brooklyn Nets, every single day. I'm Erik Slater, Brooklyn Nets beat reporter for ClutchPoints.com. Thank you for making me your first listen of the day. The show is 100% free on all those great platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. And on today's episode, I'm going to be recapping the Nets' 123-110 loss to the Utah Jazz on Thursday at Barclays Center. And this is a game that there was some anticipation, even with it being a back-to-back. The Nets were coming off back-to-back wins, first time this season with wins over the Hornets and the Bulls. They looked really good in both those games. They've been playing better basketball as of late. They're coming in against a 7-13 Jazz team that isn't atrocious, but they're obviously bad. And you think, could the Nets win 3 straight games? Is this tank in trouble? There's all those questions. And the Nets, even with them holding out MPJ in this game, giving him the night off for rest, and Drake Powell also getting the night off for rest, the Nets looked like they were going to win this game. I mean, Noah Clowney and Danny Wolf were balling early in this game. Zaire Williams had his best game of the season. And the Nets are up 9 entering the fourth quarter. And then some decisions were made. There were some pretty clear rotation decisions that I think, played off of the fact that MPJ was out and the goal of the Nets in this game during a tanking season. The Nets closed with Ben Saraf in this one at point guard. I mean, Yegor Dioman wasn't playing well, and he apparently had some kind of upper respiratory issue entering the game. But closing with Saraf, that's a decision. Nick Claxton doesn't come in until less than 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And the Nets just completely collapsed down the stretch. And the Jazz score 42 points in the fourth quarter. They go 6 of 8 from 3 in the final frame. Lauri Markkanen finishes with 28 points. Keontae George, Bryce Sensabaugh, all those guys start going off down the stretch. And the Nets really couldn't get anything going offensively because they held MPJ out. They had a lot of rookies playing down the stretch, and it just didn't seem like a game where winning was the number one priority, at least from the way that they operated, in terms of the guys they held out, in terms of the rotation throughout the night. And that is, interesting. And that's very noteworthy because I had a conversation yesterday after the Bulls win with Lucas Kaplan on the pod about how committed are the Nets going to be to the tank moving forward? Because even with them being, 5-19 entering this game, they dropped to 5th place in the draft lottery standings. They had won 2 straight. They're playing much better basketball of late following that 0-7 start. And, there were a lot of questions. I mean, with MPJ playing the way that he was playing, the soft schedule the Nets had coming up, was the tank in trouble? How, willing would the Nets be to do some things to try to maximize this tank that they didn't do early in the season last year? And I said that I wouldn't be sounding the panic alarm yet if I were Nets fans, because the Nets have shown signs that they are committed to this tank early on with how they operated this offseason, bringing in no veteran point guards, only having rookie point guards. And then also they held out MPJ for a pair of games recently. They sat Yegor Dioman on a back-to-back. So I said not to sound the panic alarm. And I think that this game was further confirmation that the Nets are committed to this tank this season, more so than they were last season, especially at this early juncture. Because, as I said, they held out MPJ in this one. That's a clear tanking sign. They said lower back injury management. We talked to Jordi Fernandez about it before the game, and he said, Mike had that lower back soreness before. They didn't want to play him on the back-to-back. They're being precautious, all that. And, take that for what it's worth. But, this was a tanking move. MPJ is playing out of his mind lately. And I think I'm pretty confident in saying that if MPJ plays in this game, the Nets win. So that, along with some of the ways that Jordi Fernandez handled the rotations, I think you're seeing some more alignment now, at this point in the season than we saw earlier in the year when the Nets are really doing everything they can to win some of these games. And that's not to say that Jordi Fernandez isn't coaching guys hard and wants the most out of them. He was upset after this win, but the rotation decisions down the stretch, I think pretty clearly indicated that this was a game where there was some tanking urgency. And, if you're a Nets fan that's in support of the tank, and that seems like a lot of Nets fans at this point, you should look at this as a positive, because this is something that the Nets were not willing to do last season. I mean, you look at some of the ways that they operated. Like in a game like this, it was the Jazz who were out tanking the Nets. And this year, it's the other way around. The Nets are holding their top player out while the Jazz are playing a guy like Lauri Markkanen and whoever else you want to say. So I think Nets fans can take some solace in the fact that, they are trying to do some more things to maximize this tank. And ultimately, like this game, this is pretty optimal, I think, if you're a Nets fan who's in support of the tank, of how you want it to play out, because the Nets were leading early. They were playing well. You have multiple young players who are showing, a ton of promise and continue to in this game. And then ultimately, they show some rookie struggles down the stretch and they end up collapsing. But like that's a game script that shouldn't be viewed as a negative for the Nets this season, ultimately, because they have a lot of guys who are showing progress and they get a loss against a fellow tanking team. And ultimately, what is this season about? I've said it's about two things, and that's draft position and rookie development. And the Nets in this game, I think they showed both of those things in terms of several young players showing promise and improving, the tank and the draft lottery odds and all that. But who are those young players who showed promise? I want to focus in on two, and it's Noah Clowney and Danny Wolf, because both of those guys were balling in this game. They've been balling as of late, and they just continue to. Noah Clowney in this game, 29 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 turnovers, 8 of 15 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3, and 10 of 12 from the free throw line. And this is a game where Noah Clowney has a role change. With MPJ playing, with MPJ out of the lineup, Noah is going to MPJ's spot in the offense. I talked to him about that after the game, and he's the Nets' number one option in this game, and he's been that in several games as of late when MPJ has missed, and Noah thrives in this one. I said 29 points. He sets a career high in free throws attempted and free throws made at 10 of 12 from the line. He continues to shoot well from 3. The driving ability continues to look much improved, and this is just, I tweeted out during the game, but this is an offensive leap that I frankly did not see coming from Noah Clowney. Over his last 7 games, Noah is averaging 17 points. He's shooting 57% on twos after he shot 41% from 2 last season. So the driving ability, the things he's able to do there is just night and day. There's plays in this game where he's bullying guys to the rim. He's going to Euros. He's going to D-cells. He's, has soft touch off the glass. Just all that looks so much improved. And then the 3-point shooting, which was a concern even when Noah started to play a little bit better, it's really come around. Over these last 17 games, Noah's shooting 40% from 3 on 7 attempts per game. So he looks every bit the high-level floor spacer the Nets have thought that he can be. And then the free throw and the free throw volume and the foul drawing. I said Noah 10 of 12 from the free throw line in this game. Those are both career highs. And he's attempting 5 free throws per game during the 17-game stretch, and he's making 82%. So, the foul drawing ability, I think, is a major positive, because if you look at Noah, his ability to shoot threes, as he's been doing, as some ancillary driving and ball handling ability, and then his ability to get to the free throw line, that is a major positive, because 2 of the highest, you look at like the high percentage shots that all NBA teams are striving for now, it's open threes, shots at the rim, and free throws. And Noah is getting all of those in droves right now. So it is just a major positive, and it's, an improvement and a leap that I frankly didn't see him making. He is playing at such a high level right now that it's really, at least offensively, that it's really taken me by surprise. I always thought that Noah had potential, but the rapid rate that he's improved at and what we've seen this season compared to last, it's been pretty crazy. And I talked to Nick Claxton in the locker room about it after the game, and I asked him if this has surprised any of the Nets, how well that Noah's been playing offensively and the leap he's made, and Clax said no. And he said that, they saw him put in the work over the offseason. I spoke in the offseason about the weight and the size that Noah had put on, the strength. And Clax said that the slow start that Noah had and the struggles that he had over those first 4 or 5 games, that was actually more surprising. So Noah continues to look like a player who, I'm not going to say star potential, because I still do think that he has some limitations to his game. But at the end of the day, he's 21 years old, and the offensive strides that he's making, he's improving at such a rapid rate that you really don't want to put a ceiling on it. And for a player who entering this season, there were major questions about, what would he be able to do offensively, if anything, outside of 3-point shooting? And was that 3-point shooting even that much of a strength? I think how this has gone in the early going, I don't think Nets fans could be asking for much of a better outcome than what Noah Clowney has shown offensively. And then defensively, There's obviously been questions about it, but he comes in today, he blocks 2 shots. He looked like a real deterrent at the rim early on. And then obviously Utah gets hot down the stretch with the Nets turning the ball over and some of their offensive struggles outside of Noah. But the defense looked much improved today. I think you still need more from the rebounding perspective. Only had 4 boards tonight. But overall, I think Noah's improvement is one of the top positive takeaways that you can take from early this season and from this game tonight. And the other positive takeaway from this game is Danny Wolf, a rookie who, frankly, has exceeded expectations by leaps and bounds during his first 4 games playing extended minutes. So what did I see from Danny Wolf, and why do I think that his performance in this one is so emblematic of his hot start and his potential moving forward? I'll get into all that when I continue Locked On Nets after a quick break. The NBA season is heating up, and DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long. Whether you're watching for the highlights, your fantasy team, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes every game night even better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something called the bag drop. Every time an NBA player scores 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day, and you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. We're talking player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, and stuff you'll actually want. Guys, I love that it's not just food. You can get everything from snacks and drinks to headphones, ice, even socks, all delivered. DoorDash has you covered for late-night highlights, last-minute watch parties, and double OT fuel-ups. So next time someone goes off for 50, use promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off your DoorDash order with Dash Pass, plus your shot at the bag drop. Dash Pass members only, 50% off up to $10 a day after a 50-point game with promo code. Terms apply, no purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash, in your bag all season long. Coming back from the break, continuing today's Locked On Nets episode, recapping Brooklyn's 123-110 loss to the Utah Jazz. And I got to talk about Danny Wolf because I said, draft position, player development, 2 major priorities for the Nets. They checked the draft position box in this game by losing and tanking it, frankly. In the player development, we got Noah Clowney, and then we got Danny Wolf, who continues to ball out. You look at Danny in this one, 17 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, 5 of 12 from the field, 3 of 8 from 3, and 4 of 4 from the free throw line. And this is Danny's 4th straight game playing extended minutes after, obviously, he got the call up from the G League. And he's been a positive contributor, and I would say a floor raiser for the Nets in all of these games. And that is, it's huge for a player who, there were obviously questions about. He fell to number 27 in the draft. You didn't know how he was going to fit positionally and all that stuff. And you look at him, he's been a positive off the bench in nearly every game, literally. From a plus-minus standpoint, he's played 5 games. He's been a positive in 4 of them. He was a +7 tonight. He was a +11 in Chicago. He was a +5 against Charlotte. He was a -9 against Milwaukee, but that was the game that he scored 23 points, and the Nets were just completely discombobulated outside of him. So you write that one off. In the first game against Philly, we only played 12 or 13 minutes. He was a +6 in that one. So 4 out of 5 games, Danny is a plus, positive box plus-minus off the bench, and he just looks like a guy who's really comfortable and looks like he's going to be a contributor on both ends of the floor. I mean, I know the Nets aren't playing world beaters, in terms of competition during these games, but Danny has come in and he's flashed real versatility, and he's done it in a variety of ways, and he's held up better on both ends, frankly, than I was expecting him to. Because if he did struggle in these early games, I don't think anybody would blame him. He was playing G League games. He's gotten no reps with these guys, but he's come in and he's looked like one of the Nets' best players, in each of these last 4 games. I mean, you look at his averages over these 4 games. He's at 14.3 points, 6.0 rebounds, 3 assists, 48% from the field, 46% from 3. I mean, those are elite numbers in, relative to the expectations for what you were looking for from Danny. And I said, he looks versatile and comfortable really on both ends, but just offensively, I mean, the 3-point shooting has been a major positive. I said, 46% from 3, and he's been willing to take some really tough threes, and he's hit some really tough threes during this stretch, and that's going to be huge for him because his ability to shoot threes and be a floor spacer is going to unlock the positional versatility. That is something that can make him so special because he can play center, then he can play the 4, and he's even showing that he can play the 3. With some of the ball handling and some of the things that he's doing and some of what he's doing defensively. But offensively, that floor spacing is a major positive. And then you're seeing the funky, fluid, athletic shot creation ability that he has. Like, that's showing up in spurts. The driving ability, that's big. The in-between game, the little like floaters and turnarounds and push shots, he's looked good on those. I mean, there was a play in this one, and I think that this play really just underscores Danny's comfort and his poise, being a guy who's playing his first NBA games. There was a play, Noah Clowney had the ball at the top of the key, and it was a grenade. It was like 5 seconds left on the shot clock. He whips it to Danny Wolf in the corner, and Danny has Lauri Markkanen guarding him. Danny catches the ball. He does like a half shot fake. He jabs right, goes left, almost completely turns Lauri Markkanen around, drives baseline. As Lauri's recovering, he spins back towards the middle and hits like a turnaround push shot baby hook. And Lauri's like in a blender this whole time. And for Danny to catch that ball on a grenade and be that confident, that comfortable, that smooth, and put Utah's best player pretty much in a blender and score, and like just runs down the court, shrugs it off like it's nothing. And that's just, those are the plays that we're seeing from Danny consistently. I mean, he looks like a guy who is going to be something, at least offensively. And a lot of the questions surrounding Danny were on the defensive end, obviously, like how would he hold up? He's not this rim protector at center. Is he going to be quick enough to stay with forwards and wings? And I think there's still questions, but he's held up much better than I expected. And, you know, he's been able to play, as I said, the 4 and the 3. We haven't seen him yet playing center, which I thought might be his most likely position. He's played mostly the 4, and then he's played a good amount of minutes as the 3 alongside Noah Clowney and Nick Claxton or Day'Ron Sharpe. And his, you know, how he's been able to hold up defensively, and then also the shooting, the ball handling, the passing, the offensive versatility that he has, that's going a long way for this Nets team. And I talked about, you know, in the first segment, fans shouldn't be that worried about the tank because the Nets did what they had to do tonight. But this is still a game where they were up by 9 points entering the fourth quarter. And the entire reason that they were up by 9 points was their front court play. And this is something that I tweeted out early in the game. The Nets have a pretty high-level front court right now. I mean, MPJ didn't play in this one, but you look at the front court, the starting front court regularly is MPJ, Noah Clowney, and Nick Claxton. All 3 of those guys are playing great. And then you have on the backups with the second unit, Day'Ron Sharpe and Danny Wolf. And both of those guys are, you know, they're floor raisers. So the Nets have a lot more front court depth than a lot of these teams. And the versatility that they have in terms of, you know, you have MPJ, obviously, you can do a variety of things. Then you have Noah Clowney, who's improving so much offensively. And then you have Danny Wolf, who can play, you know, the 3, the 4, or the 5, all of that. That's allowing the Nets to play these bigger jumbo lineups that are giving a lot of teams a lot of trouble. And you're seeing it, like you saw it in that Chicago game. You saw it in stretches for this one. The Nets have multiple lineups where their smallest guy is 6'8". Like they can run out lineups where it's, you know, those 4 guys, you know, Danny Wolf, Nick Claxton, Noah Clowney, Day'Ron Sharpe, or Nick Claxton. And then you have other guys like, you know, Yegor Dillman, Zaire Williams, whoever else you want to throw in. There's just so much size. There's so much versatility. And can those lineups hold up for like an entire game as a main lineup? No. But you can play them for some stretches. And we're seeing that give a lot of teams struggles because these other bad teams that the Nets are playing against, whether you talk about the Jazz or the Hornets or the Bulls or whatever other tanking teams they'll see in the future. They got the Pelicans on Saturday. These teams don't have as much front court depth as the Nets, and they don't have that much versatility. And ultimately, that is something that I think might keep the Nets in a lot of games. Is it going to win them all these games? It'll win them some. They'll collapse down the stretch of others. But I think that Danny Wolf, the versatility that he's showing and the overall versatility of this Nets front court is, you know, going to raise their floor on a lot of nights. And I think ultimately it should be viewed as a positive moving forward because it is kind of a signifier of how the Nets want to play. We heard Sean Marks talk about it after the draft. It's bigger, sizable guys who are versatile, who can make things tough on defense and who can do a variety of things and keep the ball moving on offense. And Danny Wolf right now is, you know, exemplifying that to a T. And that's why the Nets took a chance on him with the 27th pick. And that's why I think they've got to be really happy with the early returns. But overall, that front court, that versatility, all that, it was a floor raiser in this game, but it wasn't enough to get the Nets over the top. And the reason for that being with Michael Porter Jr. out, the Nets didn't have anything in the backcourt in this one. And the rookie point guards struggled a lot. So I'll get into that, what I saw from them and what fans should be looking for moving forward when I close out Locked On Nets after a quick break. Guys, NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Guys, live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. The Cowboys and Lions are playing tonight. Maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown makes a big catch. The Lions odds jump, or the Cowboys odds, lessen. You want to get in on either side of the action. FanDuel lets it happen. Player props update as guys heat up. Jared Goff is on a heater. He's finding his receivers. You want to take his over passing yards. You can do it with FanDuel. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, coming back from the break, closing out today's Locked On Nets episode, recapping Brooklyn's 123-110 loss to the Utah Jazz. And I touched on how well the Nets front court played in this one and, how they kind of kept the Nets in the game throughout. Now I got to get to how poorly the backcourt played and how that kind of lost the Nets the game, because the Nets backcourt in this one was frankly a disaster, and that's not that surprising because with MPJ out, with Cam Thomas sidelined, the Nets had all their rookies pretty much. Rookies and Tyrese Martin. It was Yegor Dioman and Ben Saraff and Tyrese Martin were the guys they had playing in the backcourt. Also Terrence Mann, but not as much of a ball handling presence with Terrence. Those three guys, Yegor, Ben, Tyrese Martin, rough showing for all of them. I mean, Yegor had 3 points, 1 rebound, 2 assists, 0 turnovers. 1 of 4 shooting in 20 minutes, and he frankly just looked out of it in this one. And, I think you can give him a pass because I talked to Jordi Fernandez after the game, and Jordi said that Yegor had an upper respiratory issue entering this one. So just some kind of an illness, a cough, whatever you want to call it. But he didn't look like himself in this one. And then I saw him in the locker room after the game. He's coughing a lot. He didn't look like, it didn't look like a game where, he was himself. But regardless, he is out there. And if you're going to play, this was not a good showing by Yegor. He looked like a bystander most of the time. And there's some games where we've seen from Yegor, there's some games where he plays really well. It's been most of the games lately and he looks engaged. And then there's other games where he's a bystander and he's kind of floating through. And this was one of those. But with him having this upper respiratory issue, with, Jordi Fernandez saying that he was limiting his minutes intentionally, I think you give him a pass in this one. But that was a major part of the Nets struggling, as they didn't have Yegor playing at the level that he's played at in recent games. And then Ben Saraff is a guy who played extended minutes. He played 24 minutes. Yegor only played 20. And Ben was the primary point guard during the fourth quarter. And I think Ben did some things well. He had 12 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, but 5 turnovers and was 4 of 7 from the field. So Ben had a couple nice buckets. He had a couple nice steals. I think that you saw some flashes offensively. But in the second half, he had 3 or 4 turnovers in the second half, 5 overall. And he really looked like it was a struggle for him trying to handle ball pressure and initiate offense in this one. And sometimes, it's kind of an interesting case with Ben, because sometimes he looks really good. He looks really confident as a ball handler, like he did in that Milwaukee game last Saturday. And then there's other times where he looks a little bit unsure of himself. He looks a little uncomfortable. And I think that this was one of those games. But ultimately, the Nets play Ben down the stretch of this one. They let him try to work through some struggles. He doesn't look good, but that's not the worst thing. In a tanking season where, in the fourth quarter of this game, the Jazz were able to come back because the Nets were having some struggles with their rookie point guards, and Ben was a big part of that. So you get him some experience in the fourth quarter of a game that was close during the first half of the fourth quarter. I mean, the Nets entered up 9. Ultimately, they collapsed, but Ben getting those fourth quarter minutes and the Nets ultimately getting a loss against another tanking team, that's not the worst thing in the world. So Ben, he's interesting. I think that there's games where he looks really good. There's games that he looks bad. I think that there's clear things that he's going to need to improve on. 3-point shooting is, still a major question. It's going to be a major question. And then outside of that, some of the decision-making, I mean, he struggled with turnovers in some games this year. So you're really going to need him. You're really going to need to see him clean that up and get more comfortable on takes to the basket. But that's to be expected, from a rookie who's 19 years old and is playing some of his first games against NBA competition. I mean, I've said it, Ben is the 8th youngest player in the NBA. So I think letting him work through those growing pains, that's a positive. And then Tyrese Martin, I'm not going to spend too much time on him. He had 0 points, 0 of 5 shooting. Tyrese has been a good story for the Nets thus far, but he struggled big time in this one. And last thing I want to hit on is just Zaire Williams, who had a good showing in this one. I think overall he had 23 points, 7 of 14 from the field, 3 of 10 from 3, 6 of 9 from the free throw line. And Zaire has struggled in a pretty big way of late. I mean, we saw him. He had really bad games a couple of weeks ago against the Celtics and Raptors. And then the next game after that, Jordi Fernandez removed him from the rotation against the Knicks, and Zaire has come back. And I wouldn't say he's looked, good, great or even good, but he's looked better And then in this one, I think that you saw some positive things from him. I mean, 7 of 14 from the field, 23 points. Like, that's nice. I mean, he was 6 of 9 from the free throw line, and the Jazz fouled Zaire on 3 threes during this game. And this is a player in Zaire who's shooting 30% from 3. So if I were Will Hardy, I would be tearing my hair out, because I don't know how you foul a 30% 3-point shooter 3 times from 3 in one game. But that added 6 points to Zaire's total. But he looked good, like drives to the basket. I think he looked a lot more confident and comfortable. But overall, 3 of 10 from 3. Zaire's shooting around 30% from 3 this season. You look in this game, he had 0 rebounds and 1 assist. So, I'm happy for Zaire. I'm glad that he played a little bit better in this one. But overall, I'm not too high on the Zaire Williams experience early this season. I know he had the encouraging season last year, but I think he's, come back to earth in this one. And you look at it last year and this year now, and really his whole career, like, there's not that many things that Zaire is doing at an above average level. I mean, Jordan Fernandez is really trying to get Zaire to hang the hat on defense. And I think he's been doing that better of late after he got benched during the Knicks loss. And the reason that Jordan Fernandez gave for that benching was that he didn't think that the defensive impact early this season was at the level that it was last year. But overall, like, Zaire can play hard and do some things on defense, but I don't really think he's a high-level point-of-attack defender. And then you look offensively, the thing he's supposedly bringing to the table is the three-point shooting, and he's 30% from 3 for the season, and he's really limited as a ball handler. He's not a playmaking threat whatsoever. So I'm happy for Zaire that he had 23 points in this one, and is getting back in the rotation and showing some stuff over these last 5 or 6 games. But overall, I'm just not really that high on the Zaire Williams experience or his outlook. Like, could he be an end of the roster guy moving forward? Sure. But in terms of being like an impact rotation guy for a playoff level team down the line, I'm not sure how likely that is. And I'm not sure how much more room he has for development being 5 years into his NBA career. So hopefully I'm wrong, but we'll see with that moving forward. But that's all I got for today's episode of Locked On Nets. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you do not already, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Nets on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, whether Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you enjoy the content, take a second right now, smash that like button, leave a comment, leave a 5-star review. Anything you can do to engage is much appreciated. But the Nets got another game against another tanking team on Saturday in the New Orleans Pelicans, and they have a long break. So I'll have coverage of all that and more when I'm back on Monday talking more Brooklyn Nets basketball.